The new banners for the second half of Genshin's version 5.4 have been released, and they're interesting. It's going to be Furina and Wriothesley, accompanied by this little frosty trio. We haven't seen these two in a while, so we're going to rank them, talk about some teams they fit well into, if they're beneficial for your account, and if Mika will ever be useful. Okay, first we're going to go over Furina, and we're going to talk about what she does. So talents, normal attack, nothing interesting here. She never normal attacks really, so don't worry about these. Her skill invites the guests of a salon solitaire to come forth and aid in Furina's performance. We'll summon either the salon members or the Singer of Many Waters based on Furina's current arc alignment. Remember that? Remember arc alignment? Neither do I. Basically, Fontaine characters have two possibilities when it comes to their arc alignment. Either Wisa or Numa. And they're very specific to Fontaine enemies and mechanics for exploring and don't really help very much at all. Actually, the most important thing about this mechanic is Furina herself. So Wisa, this is what she starts at by default. So foaming bubbles, like celebrants, shall dance, dealing AoE Hydra damage based on Furina's max HP and summoning 3 salon members, an octopus, a seahorse, and a crab. They basically attack on their own and they target the character that you yourself are attacking. And the thing to keep in mind is they will drain your entire party's health in order to make themselves more powerful. So if any characters in your party are above 50% HP, these backup dancers will drain their health. They'll deal this much more here, depending on how many characters have their HP drained. Now that's Wisa. Numa is essentially the opposite. It just heals your active character. That's it. And this just says you have to charge an attack to switch between them. So you can see here on the bottom right, the E has her kind of stancing with 3 bubbles around her. If you hit it while that icon is there, you'll get these 3 little buddies. There's nothing to attack right now, so they're not attacking. They're at the ready though. And then if you charge attack, you'll switch. If the skill's active, you'll start healing. And you get this, I don't know what that is, but it is smiling. So it's friendly? I don't know. Now, no matter which one you pick, their duration is going to be 30 seconds, which is a long time, especially considering the CD is only 20. So 100% uptime. Now, the fun part is if the skill is active, doesn't matter which one, you can run on water. Pretty cool, but that is just for her. So if you switch, now they have to swim. I think it'd be way cooler if all the characters can run on water, because then your travel time would be way shorter. So her skill is her main source of damage, but her burst is her main source of utility for the team. So when you cast it, it deals damage based on her max HP. And basically anytime any party member's HP increases or decreases, you build fanfare. Okay, so there's some numbers here. And we're gonna do a little bit of math. So again, she's accumulating fanfare based on increases or decreases in HP, not just healing. And she'll increase the damage dealt by and incoming healing bonus of all nearby party members based on how much fanfare she has. So basically, she has a maximum fanfare of 300. So 300. And for each fanfare point, she increases damage by 0.25%. So that's times 0.0025. And this in percentage is 75%. So if she maxes out her fanfare at 300, she gives the team 75% damage bonus. Large! Her first ascension passive is when the active character in your party receives healing. If the source of the healing is not Furina herself and the healing overflows, Furina will heal nearby party members for 2% of their max HP once every 2 seconds for the next 4 seconds. If a character gets healed more than what their max HP allows, then for the next 4 seconds, Furina will keep healing them and everyone else. The next passive is for every 1,000 points of Furina's max HP, she can buff the different arc-aligned Salon Solitaire in the following ways. She increases their damage by 0.7% per 1,000 points, up to a maximum 28%. and she can decrease the interval times between healings up to 16%. Basically, to get the maximum effect of this, you need 40,000 HP. And this is an exploration passive. Okay, so that's what she do. And we'll go over the first 2 constellations, because anything after that, you're likely not free to play and you just really like the character. So you just want constellations anyway. But C1 is when using her burst, Furina automatically gets 150 fanfare, and the limit is increased by 100. So the old limit was 300, the new limit is 400, and you're starting with 150 off the bat, which also increases the maximum damage bonus from 75% if you max it out at 400 to 100%. So you can see it as a 25% damage bonus increase to the whole team. Quite good. C2, a woman adapts like duckweed in water. Love is a rebellious bird that none can tame. Okay, C2, while the burst is happening, the rate at which she accumulates fanfare from increases or decreases in HP is increased by 250%. So 3.5 times as fast. And each point of fanfare above the limit will increase Furina's max HP by 0.35%. Maximum HP increase is 140%. So increases her damage and durability. Because remember, she scales with HP. So honestly, they are both pretty damn good. For artifacts, there's essentially one that people run her on, and it's the Golden Troop. Pretty much tailor-made for her. It increases elemental skill damage by 20%, which is her entire thing. The 4-piece gives another 25%, and when she's not on the field, it's another 25%. So a 70% damage bonus, a 70% skill damage bonus. If you don't have that, you could use Tenacity the Millilith to have a pretty consistent 20% increased attack to the team, because she's constantly attacking with her elemental skill. But really, just try to get Golden Troop. For main stats, on the Sands, you're pretty much going to go HP the whole time. The Goblet, you're going to want to go HP also, unless you have her C2, because she gets a good amount of HP from that already. So you might want to change this to Hydro Damage bonus. And for the Circlet, I've been using crit. She is attacking, her damage matters. So trying to get her crit stats up is important. So really, whichever one you need. And we're going to go over weapons when we go over the weapon banner. But next is Wriothesley. What he do? Basically, his whole deal is normal attacks and charge attacks, but he's a normal and charge attacking unit. So this is important. His skill, Ice Fang Rush, he basically goes into a different state. And for that next 10 seconds, he's a little tankier. And as long as his HP is above half, his normal attack damage will be increased. So it's 170% of the normal attack damage. The burst is pretty much just one huge blast of damage. Then he has his Ascension 1 passive. When his HP is less than 60%, he gets something called Gracious Rebuke, which means his next charged attack will be enhanced to become Vaulting Fist. If you do Vaulting Fist, it doesn't consume stamina, and it'll be 1.5 times as strong as it normally would. It'll also heal him for 30%. Now his second Ascension passive increases his attack by 6% every time his HP increases or decreases while he is in that chilling penalty state from his skill, up to 5 times. So 30% attack, pretty good. It also consumes a bit of his HP for every normal attack. It's not too much, it's 4.5%, but it adds up over time. All right, constellations, same deal. We're gonna go over 1 and 2. C1 is a ton of words, but basically it changes this passive talent. At C0, the criteria for getting this big boom charge attack is HP less than 60%, once every 5 seconds, and it does 50% more damage. The constellation makes it so that the condition is either 60% or less HP, or when the 5th hit of the normal attack hits. Instead of 5 seconds, it could happen every 2.5 seconds, and the damage dealt is no longer 50% more, it's 200% more. It also increases the duration of his skill by 4 seconds, so from 10 to 14 seconds. This is a badass constellation. C2, when using the burst, each stack from his passive talent increases the damage by 40%. And remember, there could be 5 stacks, so 200% increase in damage. Quite good. Basically, C1 increases charge attack stuff, C2 increases burst stuff. Wriothesley has a little more leeway with his artifacts, but for the most part, it's going to be this one, the Wrio Hunter, because he normal and charge attacks, and the 4-piece, if his HP increases or decreases, the crit rate bumps up by 36% with 3 stacks. His HP is constantly fluctuating because when he normal attacks, goes up and down. But if you're playing him on a freeze team, you could play him with Blizzard Strayer for 15% cryo damage and 40% crit rate if they are frozen, which I don't know how liable frozen is going to be in the near future, but we haven't been able to freeze in the Abyss for a long time, but this most current Abyss you can again. So I don't know if this is a veering towards that direction or not, but you can keep that in mind. Another one you can use is Shimanawa. This is pretty close to as good as Wrio Hunter because huge normal and charge attack damage bonus, 50%, at the expense of energy. So if you're not bursting often, this is pretty good. But if you have C2, the burst becomes far more important. So this loses some value. For stats, it's going to be a pretty standard attack, cryo, and crit, whichever one you need. Try to balance out the ratio. If you're playing him with Furina, you might get away with changing the goblet to an attack goblet, since Furina is giving you a lot of damage bonus anyway. And that's pretty much Wriothesley. Alright, I'm not going to spend too much time on the 4-star characters, but we're going to go through them briefly. First one, Mika. Mika has been largely forgotten about forever by everyone, and every animal and pseudo-living creature on the planet. He's kind of cool though, he has a crossbow. But basically what he does is he's a team-wide healer. He buffs physical damage and attack speed. I'm sure you're starting to piece together why no one plays him. AKA, there aren't very good at physical damage characters, and attack speed is more of a meme than anything else. For now, upcoming, I have very high hopes, but for now, underwhelming. He's going to be good for Eula. If you're playing a physical Razor, he'll be alright. Ramane, but none of those characters are characters people use, so if you love them, go ahead. But otherwise, his best constellation is C6, so if you are close and you really want it, maybe it's worth wishing for that. But it increases physical crit damage by 60%, so it's a good chunk. Chungus is next. He is interesting. I always felt like he had more promise than he actually did. He is the damage dealer on a team. Usually you can kind of play him as a quick swap burst support because his skill is a field on the ground that increases attack speed, lowers skill CD a little bit. It also converts your normal attacks to cryo damage, which is really interesting. And I've been trying to figure out some teams where that could be cool or useful, or even if it's gimmicky but it works, I want to know them because I think this is a very cool character. But I haven't really found anything yet, and his burst doesn't really do as good a damage as I'd like it to. His C3 is pretty good. If you're close to that, might be worth it. Now Charlotte is another team-wide healer. I've seen some people use her on field because her healing scales with attack, so you could build her with some crazy attack and do something. And she's cryo, so she can reverse melt, but really her main thing is her healing, and she actually heals a lot. So if you feel like you're dying often, she might be a good character for you. Her C6 is the most interesting. They're all but C6 is interesting because it does more off-field cryo damage. But really, she's a pretty complete character without any constellations. Now, this as a whole is pretty interesting because Furina works with healers, specifically team-wide healers. We have 2 team-wide healers right here, Mika and Charlotte. So they're both pretty good teammates for Furina. Charlotte being better for freeze teams, Mika being better for physical teams, and you could add Changyun there as the damage dealer, so you can build something here on its own. So basically, Furina works with everyone. That's not really even an exaggeration. There are so many characters in this game. I think there's like 90 something characters, and she works with most. a lot of the carries' best teams are going to be Furina with a team-wide healer. And there's too many to really dive into in this video. But basically, if you have any sort of team-wide healer like Jean, like Shen Yun, like any of these two, Barbara or Bennett, you're going to boost the damage of your team by a lot. Whoever's doing the damage. So you have her, a team-wide healer, maybe another support like Kazuha, or just someone to do a little more damage. Shangling is good. Really any sub DPS. And then a main damage dealer. And you have a great team. Now Wriothesley's a little different because he is the damage dealer. He also works well with Furina. His normal attacks decrease his own health and his charge attacks increase his health. So that fluctuation feeds the stacks that Furina needs for fanfare. Is it to its fullest? No, but it definitely does a good amount. Now he's cryo, so he's going to work really well in melt teams like with Bennett and Shangling. He works well with characters that buff cryo like Shalonen and Kazuha if he swirls it, Shenhe of course. Bennett is a great teammate for him for the attack boost. His freeze teams are pretty cool, and overall he's just really fun to play. Okay, so weapons. Let's go over Furina's first. Splendor Tranquil Waters. That's a pretty good weapon, and it's obviously made for her. But basically, if party members' HP increases or decreases, her skill does more damage and she gets more HP. And it's a crit damage ascension. So normally this is pretty good, assuming you can get enough energy recharge on Furina to make it feel useful. But from what I've heard, I don't have this weapon, it's pretty difficult to get enough energy recharge without the expense of doing less damage. So people would rather fish for the Fleuve Sandra Ferryman because it gives a bunch of ER and increases elemental skill crit rate. Favonius Sword because of the crazy energy recharge. Or a version 1 point whatever event weapon, Festering Desire. Now if you're getting Furina for the first time, that means you didn't get her when she came out initially, and everyone got her when she came out initially, which means maybe you're new to the game, which means there's no way you can get this. But it does have an ER substat and increases elemental skill damage and crit rate. And it looks really, really cool. I think anyway. What do you think? And for Wriothesley, the cash flow supervision is his main weapon of choice. And honestly, it's very good for him. It increases normal and charge attack damage, attack speed, attack. Has a crit rate ascension, which might look low at 22%. But remember, he's using the Marashuse Hunter, which gives another 36. So without any substats at all, he's at 58% crit rate. So this is going to be his best. I think essentially tied for first is Wanderer's weapon, which increases normal attack speed and damage by a lot. And this one's a crit damage ascension, so it would prevent you from overcapping on crit rate. A 4-star option is the Widsith. This is what I personally use him with, and I think it's great. It also has a crit damage ascension, which is pretty useful to not overcap. It also has 3 effects that are useful for him specifically. If you're not familiar with Widsith, once you take the field, you get a random of these 3 effects, either 60% attack for R1, 48% elemental damage bonus to every element, or 240 elemental mastery. And they're all relevant for him because he likes attack. That's 48% cryo damage bonus. And if you're on a melt team, that EM is going to help a lot. Now this is a craftable weapon that can also be pretty good for him because elemental damage bonus increases after using his skill, and it gives him a bond of life, which when cleared gives him another bunch of elemental damage bonus. Okay, now these are interesting. I'm just gonna come out and say it. There's only one good weapon here, and it's Fav Sword. This bow's the rust, and it sucks. No one uses it. Dragon's Bane gives a bunch of EM, and you can use it with a couple of characters like Rosaria, Hu Tao, if you have Hu Tao, but it's no one's best weapon. The book is Sacrificial Fragments. It's okay. 2 people come to mind that use it frequently, which is Sucrose and Nahida for the big EM that it gives, but it's nothing incredible. And then Sacrificial Greatsword I've never heard anyone using even a little. Maybe Beto, because her skill's fun. That's it. So all in all, Furina is a fantastic character. If you don't have her and you want to give your main carry a quite large damage boost, keep in mind you need a team-wide healer or a healer of some sort to use with her, but I would say to get her if you fit that mold. There's been a lot of really good supports to come out lately. When Furina came out initially, she was by far the best. Now Furina is amongst the best, aka Shalonen. But if you don't have her, she's gonna be fun to play, and she's gonna be a very good boost. One character she does not work well with is Arlecchino, so keep that in mind. If you're an Arlecchino main, you're probably not gonna use Furina, because Furina can drain Arlecchino's health, but can't heal her. So it's kind of unfortunate. Now Wriothesley's one of my favorite characters. He's super fun to play. He's essentially on par damage-wise with Ayaka, but way more badass. And if you don't really have like a normal attacking unit and you want to switch up your playstyle, he's a good option. Cryo as an element in its whole is kind of lacking lately, which isn't great because it's a really cool element. But he is amongst the better DPSs. Now everyone here is Cryo, which is weird. Is this foreshadowing for the future? Who knows? But for future relevance, I would say Furina is going to be relevant for quite some time. I don't think she'll ever be irrelevant, but I don't think she's going to be the best buffer forever. She's up there now, and I think she will at least until Snezhnaya, which is the next region coming out in 6.0, but that's not for a long time because they're probably going to add new mechanics to the game at that point that are just going to be honestly pretty wild. Because if this was power creep in the beginning of the game, now it's but I do think she's going to be good for a while. Wriothesley is pretty good now, and I think he's only going to get better because I have faith that there's going to be a cryo revolution. It's the most neglected element. As of now, it was Geo, but they did a good amount with Geo lately with Shalonen and Kachina and the new artifact set. So decent now, and I'm just hoping, but I do think even better with time. Now, something else to keep in mind is Varisa's coming out soon. We don't really know exactly what she does yet. People are just relying on leaks, which are leaks. They're not, everything's still in beta. They're not 100% reliable, but looks like she's an attacking unit and could probably benefit from Furina. Another character that's coming out soon is Aoife, who's a vet. He's a Saurian vet, so it would make sense that he would be a healer, and Furina needs healers, so they'll likely synergize well. That's really it. Do with all of that information what you will, and join me. Join me for the cryo revolution. It's gonna happen. It will happen. But let me know what you think. I'm curious to know if you think these guys are gonna be relevant for a while. So leave a comment about that. And let me know if you're going for them. Good luck. See you for the next one. Ciao.